Have you ever stopped to think about why you create a home? That little 3-letter word, why, is really something that can change everything when it comes to homemaking. And for me, years ago, when I was struggling to stay motivated as a homemaker, I just got out a piece of paper and a pencil and I started just writing down all the reasons why I wanted to care for my home well, because I just needed to know the purpose behind doing all of these tasks that just seemed so just underwhelming to me at the time. And so today I want to just talk to you about really kind of the purpose of our homes and using our homes well as homemakers, and also just letting go of the pressure that we often feel when it comes to homemaking, especially with social media and just the things that we see online. So when I started thinking about why I wanted to take care of my home well, and just thinking about the home that I wanted to create, one of the first people that I thought about was my grandma. And I loved going to her house. It was always just a welcoming, comfortable home. And the thing was, she didn't have a fancy home. She actually lived in a double wide trailer in a mobile home. And it even still had the little hitch sticking out the front of her home, but it always was just so welcoming coming into her home. And she would use the same decorations year after year for the different holidays. And, she didn't have to go buy fancy new ones every year. She would even use fake flowers to put out front in her little flowering pots. I don't think she ever had actual real flowers out front, but I remember that she would take care of her home and she would try to make it look nice. And it was always just so comfortable going to her home. And, it was, like I said, it was just a mobile home. But to me, I felt like she lived in the nicest house in her little town that she lived in Iowa. And it's not because it was impressive, but it was because she cared for her home with love. My grandma never really seemed concerned with what other people had or comparing herself to them. She decorated her home the way she liked, and anyone who came to her front door and walked in her home, she cared for those people. And she just made a place in her home as just a place to welcome people and for everyone to feel good when they came in her home. And honestly, that's the kind of homemaker that I want to be. So, I know today it's so easy to just feel pressure to create this picture perfect home because we scroll through social media, through Pinterest, maybe look through magazines, and we just see all these beautifully styled rooms, and we start to think that our homes need to impress other people too. But the truth is, that's not what a home is for. A home is meant to serve the people who live there. And, personally, in our dining room, this is where we do our homeschooling. And for years, I tried to hide our homeschool materials. And one day I just realized this is where we do homeschool 5 days a week. And it takes up a lot of our time. It's just a part of our life. We need maps to refer to. We need the whiteboard on the wall. We use the flashcards and the notebooks and the workbooks that sit on our hutch, and that's just real life. And I just stopped hiding them, and they show up in my videos, and that's okay. I'm really not trying to create some sort of aesthetic here on my channel. I'm just showing you real life. I often will show my bedroom and when I make my bed, and you have seen on my nightstand, I have lotion and tissues and a phone charger because I actually use them, and it's not magazine worthy, but it works for me. And it's just what my room needs to be in order to function for me. And, there's nothing wrong with decorating your home beautifully. Obviously, I'm doing that in this video because I enjoy decorating, but I don't ever want my desire of decorating to impress others and then steal the joy out of creating a home that truly serves my family. So, I would just encourage you, use the decor that you love, even if it's not trendy or something you've seen online. Make your home work for your real life. And just let go of the pressure to impress people who don't even live in your home, because the most meaningful homes aren't the most impressive ones. They're the ones that are filled with love and care and just everyday life on display. For tonight's dinner, we were making personal pizzas, so the kids were getting to add the toppings that they wanted onto their own little pizza crust, which was the first time we had ever done that, and they loved it. So we will be definitely doing that again in the future. But on a recent video, someone had asked if I would share a little more about just working with yeast, and because it feels intimidating to work with yeast. And I know when I first started, I was not so sure how to do it, and I had a couple of fails, but over the years I have figured out what worked, and there's really just 3 things that make working with yeast successful. So I thought that while I was making pizza tonight, I would share with you what those 3 things are. And if you have any tips that you want to leave below as well, be sure to leave them. If you have a question, I will be happy to answer them as well. But the first is this. When you're working with yeast, you want to make sure that your water is warm, and it should be between the temperatures of 100 to 110 degrees, somewhere in between. Usually mine is around 104, 106, and I just use tap water. I turn on the warm water and I measure out what I need, and then I use a thermometer to measure the temperature. And if it's a little too warm, I'll dump a little out and add a little cool water. If it is too cool, you can also add it to the microwave, and you can warm it up just like for 5 seconds at a time and then measure it. But if your water is between 100 and 110, that is the key. You don't want it hotter and you don't want it cooler than that. And then the second thing is to always mix your yeast with your sugar and your warm water first, and then cover it with plastic wrap and let it sit and bubble for 5 minutes. And even if a recipe doesn't call for that, some recipes will say to put the yeast in with the flour, or to just do the, sugar with the flour and then just do the yeast and the warm water. And I have found that that does not work. So I always just take whatever recipe I'm using and always add the warm water, yeast, and sugar separately. And then I add in whatever wet ingredients I have to that after 5 minutes. And then finally I add it to my dry ingredients. And that works every single time for me. And then the third tip is to make sure that when your dough is rising for the first time, that you cover it tightly with plastic wrap, because that will allow no air drafts to get through. It keeps your dough moist so that it won't dry out, and then it will grow. And that is going to be the perfect dough for you, whether you're making rolls or pizza dough or bread. That is what works, those 3 things. So I hope that that is helpful. I do have this recipe linked on my blog along with the pizza sauce that we are using. So I will leave those linked below so that you can check out those recipes and print them off of my blog if you would like. I know that today's video was kind of simple, a little different than what I normally do, but I hope that you enjoyed it and walk away encouraged. If we have never met, welcome to my channel. My name is Emily, and I love sharing practical and biblical homemaking motivation here, and I hope that you will stick around and subscribe. I also have a free resource for you that I will leave linked below to help you along with your homemaking, and I will see you in the next video.